out. Thank you so much for watching this video. Welcome or welcome back. I am happy that you are here. Let's go ahead and get into today's topic. So this is going to be for anyone who is thinking about purchasing from some of those third-party platforms like eBay, Mekari, Poshmark, so on and so forth. There's so many out there that are popular and you can buy pre-owned items from. I just want to go over some reasons why maybe you should not go that route. I always like to do pros and cons, so just a little bit of something to think about on both sides of the argument. So let's go ahead and get into it. So first up is going to be, it is the wild, wild west out there, and you have unprofessional sellers as well as companies or professional sellers that are on these platforms. So the thing that you have to think about here is, me as Susie down the street, I could just pile up my items and decide to sell them. And then you have Sarah that's around the corner that can take her items and decide to sell them too. And then you got Tammy from another state that's decided to sell on these platforms. All three of us are people who are basically just taking items from our closets, taking photographs of them, and putting them online because either we no longer use them anymore or what have you, and selling them to you. So you have people who have different reasons for being on these platforms. It could be just they want to declutter, they're no longer using these items anymore and they want to get rid of them. Or you have people who have now turned this into a business and are basically resellers. They're thrifting, they're finding items at a lower price, they spruce them up at times and then photograph them, describe them, and then sell them to you. And some of these people are individual people, and there also are people who have actually formulated companies. For example, like Fashion File. I believe Fashion File started on eBay as a really small store, and now they're the enormous company that has multiple locations, has a website, and so on. So it can grow from there, from really small companies. But really what I'm getting at is, if it's individual sellers, I gave 3 examples of 3 different people, basically just everyday people that you see on the street that are deciding to sell. They have no standards, right? Like, you see the item that's photographed, but if there's no standards with how I describe my item and how I measure my item versus someone else down the street that does theirs that one way and then someone else that does theirs a different way. So because these people are not professionals and you have people who have different standards, you are not able to kind of compare like for like, I guess is what I should say. They could not take as great of photos. They could exclude things that are very important. They could not describe smells when there are smells. All of those are things that can be different between one seller to the next. Now, definitely you should ask questions. Don't just take the information and not ask questions. If there's an angle that's not photographed, make sure you're asking, because you also have people that are pulling stock photos as photos, and then they may show you a couple of other photos up to show the other angles that the stock photos didn't show. But you didn't show me the front of the bag, you showed me what the stock photo of the bag looks like. No, I want to see all angles of the bag. So just for that reason, you have, like I said, people who are not professional companies or professional sellers out there that have different standards of describing, photographing, and providing a product to you. And so you can get a really good person one day and then somebody else who is just not so good, and you end up with something that looks nothing like what you ordered. So for that reason, that may be a top reason why you may decide, you know what, let me go to my local consignment store. Let me only purchase from a company versus an individual. And I'm not saying whether you should do one or the other. I'm just saying that could be a reason or a con, really, on kind of the things that you need to think about when you're going through these platforms to purchase items. All right, and now also you'll see you'll see my outfit change. I had to re-record the beginning, so this is me recording the beginning, and so you're gonna see my outfit change so I can get to the other points. Any place that you go to that is not the original maker of that item, or is not a department store that has some type of merchant agreement with Gucci, or a merchant agreement with Ferragamo or Prada or so on and so forth, Off-White or whoever, as a third-party authorized retailer, you are running the risk that your item may not be real. That's just the truth. There are ways you can get around that. And I do have playlists on a playlist that you'll see towards the end of this video on how my tips on kind of how you can protect yourself. But anyway, like I said, you do have that authenticity question. Like I said, if unless you buy my bag directly from Gucci, or I go to Saks Fifth Avenue and buy my Gucci bag, I cannot be 100% sure that that item is real until, yeah, we want to go down that route. Because I have some other, we can get some other content in that. But let me just say that, you know, you can go through authenticators. I use authenticators all the time. So I'm not saying that, I mean, that's just the truth about it. I don't even know how to explain that any other way. There are ways you can make sure it's authentic by sending it in to be repaired or anything like that, or using multiple authenticators to make sure that item is real. But I just want to say, I mean, just in all fairness and truth, you do run that risk. And yeah, there are ways to get around it, but I'm sorry. I just keep like going round and round and round. There are ways to get around it. I have another video actually where I talk about ways. I think if I don't, I will make that video. But you cannot be 100% sure, but there are some reputable places out there that pride themselves on guaranteeing items are authentic. And going through those places, or also using resources that authenticate, multiple resources that authenticate, is a way you can get around that. And also, like I said, sending it in to be repaired is also a way, because they know their product. So as soon as they take that puppy apart, they'll say, wait a minute, this is not right. So that is also a way, but you've already spent your money at that point. So anyway, we'll move on. So authenticity is another reason. So if that's a hindrance, major hindrance, you don't have a plan around that, I would say you may want to pump the brakes on purchasing third party or through these platforms until you are better prepared for that. All right, next up is going to be scammers. I've seen several YouTubers that I enjoy their content, and they've talked about how they no longer do vlog sales, or they no longer will sell through other platforms because of the rate of scammers and the way that people have been very creatively able to get around certain measures to cause issues with you or for you. So there's several ways that they can scam you out of an item. One of those that I have heard of, thank goodness, thank God, it has not happened to me, but one of the ways that it's happened to someone actually that I watch, Angelique Eva, for example, her channel's really large, and she talked about how she sold an item, and I believe she sold it on her own, and when she sent the item to them, that person told some story to the bank. So when they wired her or paid through PayPal or something like that, the money for the item, then it was a chargeback. So basically, let's say the item she sold was $5,000. They called the bank and said, I didn't make this purchase. They got her item and the $5,000 back. So that's one way. There are so many ways. Another way, if you watch Sophie Sohet, I enjoy her channel too. She's talked about issues that she's had. And I want to say, I don't know if it's actually exactly happened to her, but I've heard people talk about stories where they will send that person that item, or they will buy an item from that person, and that person will either send them something that is completely not real and it's a blatant fake, or they will, if I sell that item, then that person on the other side, so the customer will say they didn't receive it. And I know I sent you a real item, and then when you return it back, you send me something fake. So there's been a lot of stories about how people have been scammed through different venues, whether that's straight up selling through Instagram or selling through any of these third-party platforms that I just mentioned. So it is out there, and it is a risk that you do have when you're buying or either selling through these platforms. They have ways to try to protect you, but there are people that slip through the cracks and issues that do happen. So that is just a very honest thing that happens. Not honest. It's not honest that it happens. I'm just saying, honestly, it does happen. And you do have to be careful about kind of transactions that you're having on either side. Okay. Next up is going to be segueing into my next topic on scamming and people lying or whatever to send you fake items or get fake items or get your real items out of you. Is when you have these situations that happen, like I said, these third-party platforms do have ways to try to protect you, also protect the seller. So they try to protect the customer and the seller from fraudulent activity happening. However, that situation that happens is dependent on someone else. So it's dependent on, and I don't even know how many cases they get, how they process these, how they investigate these. But because you cannot pick up the phone with the companies that I just mentioned, except for eBay, you can call eBay. But to my knowledge, you can call Tradesy. Tradesy has a 1-800 number too. But I definitely know through Poshmark, you can't call someone. It's all through that platform. I don't know about Mekari because I've never sold on there. And then Vestier, I'm not sure about Vestier either. I think they have customer service people, but I'm not sure. But anyway, I'm getting at the point where you're totally reliant on whoever that person is that's dealing with your case, that they're pretty much seeing the whole situation from all angles, all sides, truly investigating what's happening, and really making sure that they, based off of the research that they've made or the information that they receive from either you or that other person on the other side, that they're making the best and fairest decision that they possibly can. And you really are dependent on the person that's looking over your information. And if for whatever reason the chips don't fall in your favor, you could potentially be stuck with something. If you are at this segment of the video, what are you doing? Definitely hit like. I would so much appreciate it. Also, go ahead and check out some other videos and see if you want to subscribe. I would love to have you subscribe to my channel. Like in a situation where it's not ideal, it's not a real thing, or you don't get your money and you don't have the item or what have you. So it's just, you really want to be aware of that. And I know other people do talk about reasons why they don't sell or don't purchase from certain third-party platforms such as the ones that I've talked about. And some people do talk about individual ones specifically. So definitely I encourage you to research and review those videos to see what they're talking about. Next up is going to be a top reason, which is going to be return policy. Make sure you're paying attention to the return policy. Some of these places do not give you your money back. Some of them give you a credit. And with some places, it totally is dependent on the individual seller themselves. For example, eBay is that way. eBay is set up where me, Susan Jones, as an individual seller on eBay, can say that I have a return policy where I will take items back from within 30 days. Whereas Betty Jones is selling her pieces and she says there's no refunds. So it completely is dependent on the individual person's page you're on or seller that you're buying from an eBay perspective. From Poshmark and from Tradesy's perspective, Poshmark, there are no returns. So if you can imagine, have you ever really obsessed over something, decided to purchase it, you, for whatever reason, wasn't able to see it in person, but you get it and it does not meet your expectations? You're stuck with that item because Poshmark does not give returns. And for those reasons, sometimes people do decide to find some way to send it back because it simply just doesn't work for them. Nothing's wrong with the item. It's just not what they expected it to be. But that's to no fault of the person who sent it to you. That's just, it didn't align with what you expected and what you got. There are also other valid reasons why people try to return. But anyway, like I'm saying, there's that chance of that. And so I know it's happened to all of us, anyone who has shopped online. And so you do have to be mindful of that and make sure that you are okay with the fact that you may not be able to get your money back. With Poshmark, for example, you can reposh it, but you have to hope that you can get the same price or close to the price you paid for it, or it sells at all. honestly. The other retailer, the platforms, I keep calling it retailers, like Tradesy, for example, they will allow you to send it back, but you get a credit. So if you're okay with knowing that you're going to spend X amount of dollars on that item and it doesn't work out, but you know you can take that money and apply it to something else, then that may be a good option for you. But sometimes, like me, I don't know if you're the same way, but let's say something costs me $500, it doesn't work out. I want my $500 back because I may not find something on that platform and want to look elsewhere for it. And in that case, I have to then come back to that platform because they're not going to give me my money back. So those are just some examples of varying return policies. So absolutely make sure you are paying attention to that. Definitely check out this playlist that is on your screen. It is also related to pre-owned. And let me know what you think. Check out a few other videos of mine, and I will talk to you again soon, either on a Wednesday or a Saturday, hopefully both days of the week. That would be great. So thank you so much for watching. Bye.